Our story begins just as the Pharaoh taxis was about to be touched in so many ways that it shouldn't have been. But no diddy. But we actually go here and we actually see that the Autobots state something very different in this timeline. You see, when Optimus asks Wheeljack what's going on, Wheeljack says he doesn't know, but he's picking up of some interdimensional energy coming from the Pharaoh taxis. Something is accessing it. Something is, well, kind of increasing its energy. And this is where Grimlock says, so, is Pharaoh Taxi going to explode? And unfortunately, at that moment, it does explode. And so it would go through time and space, taking not only the Autobots, but the tower itself. And well, this is where Grimlock is actually the first one to awaken. And he's in front of a temple. Grimlock hears something, and he looks around, and the voice is like, up here. No, up here. No, over here. Just look in front of you. And this is where he actually sees a glowing light. Like, finally. Hi, how are you? I'm Arceus, the creator of this world. And can you send me Grimlock back to, friends, please? Me really would like to go home and punch Decepticons. And this is where the voice is like, okay, so this one probably isn't the sharpest one in the drawer. And this is where Arcee is like, yes, you will go home in time. However, I need your help. You see, some things have been going on in this dimension. And well, if you beat this temple, I could help you find your friends. And maybe you'll get some new abilities as well to help you beat those, Decepticons. To which Grimlock is like, deal. So what me Grimlock do? Me Grimlock ready for everything. And this is where Arceus simply explains the temple. This is the Temple of Strength. You will go in, no sword, no gun, just pure hands. I will allow you to transform into your beast form should you so choose, and utilize your fire breath, but this is all for physical combat only. Do you accept? And to which Grimlock is like, me Grimlock the strongest, me pass Little's test like nothing. And so Grimlock walks in. It takes him a minute, but he gets to his first chamber, and he sees Sceptile, Flygon, and Haxorus, dragon-type Pokemon, and one dragon-like Pokemon just waiting for him. And this is where Arceus simply states the very simple challenge. You will go through 3 arenas, all of them showing your physical capabilities. Simply do one thing, win. And win no matter what. To which Grimlock is a bit taken aback, and he's like, me don't want to hurt the animals. However, the match begins. Flygon whips up a super strong sandstorm, one that actually obscures even the walls of the arena that they're in, and Grimlock can't see. Despite the fact that he's a Cybertronian, he can't see through this sandstorm. And this is where Sceptile goes in for Leaf Blade and starts slashing Grimlock on the left, slashing him on the right, on the middle, up, down, left, right. Sceptile doesn't let up for a single second of this interaction, and he even pushes Grimlock back with these other slashes, and honestly, even boosting his speed with Quick Attack, Grimlock still kind of holds firm, but he knows he's getting pushed back. He can't see. He's getting slashed from all sides, and just when Grimlock states he doesn't want to hurt them, this is where Haxorus comes in with a Rock Smash, sending Grimlock flying into the arena wall, where he simply just hangs in the wall for a minute. However, this is where Flygon begins to bathe him in dragon breath. And Grimlock doesn't really scream in pain, as again, this dude is pretty tough here. And he simply states, don't want to hurt them, but getting harder to comply with. And this is where Arceus simply tells him, you want to see your friends? You want to pass this trial. You want to prove you're the strongest, right? The strongest one there is. No one beats Grimlock, right? Then you have to do it. You have to be able to beat them. I didn't say kill them. I'm saying beat them. And so this is where Grimlock's visors glow red. And when Sceptile goes in for a Leaf Blade, Flygon decides to go in for a dragon rush. And well, Grimlock does something brutal. He grabs Sceptile by the actual arm and swings him so hard that he gets smacks Flygon with him, sending Flygon back. However, Flygon then goes for another Dragon Breath. However, Grimlock, now being able to see at the very least Flygon's red areas around his wings, throws Sceptile right through the Dragon Breath and causes him to hit Flygon, causing a massive explosion. However, this is where Haxorus tries to come in with a surprise, well, Rock Smacks or Axe Cutter, right? However, Grimlock hits him with a weave and then straight up uppercuts him so hard that he goes flying into the arena wall, and the force of it is so great that it disperses the sandstorm. However, just as the sandstorm is dispersed, this is where Sceptile comes in with a dual glowing leaf blade. However, Grimlock ducks underneath, grabs Sceptile by the waist, and slams him into the ground and tells him to stay down. And now Sceptile's kind of like struggling for a moment, but this is where Flygon tries to use this opportunity to try and blindside Grimlock with a Dragon Claw. So this is where Grimlock pretty much does the same thing he does to any character in the Devastation game. He dodges, lifts his Flygon up, and then power slams him. Then turns into his T-Rex form, grabs him again, and swirls him around, and then tosses him aside. However, Flygon obviously will regain his footing and go in for a Dragon Breath. So this is what Grimlock does. He barrels through it, and then utilizing his fist kind of caught in some of that Dragon Breath energy, he rocks Flygon so hard that Flygon goes crashing into Sceptile, and then sending them flying back even further, with them ending up hitting Haxorus, who just barely got out of his own crater in the wall. And this is where Grimlock says, "Me, strongest." And well, Arceus tells him, "Great work. You've proven yourself to be a capable fighter and a capable combatant. On to the next arena." And this is where Arceus opens a path. But before Grimlock goes, he looks towards the others who have just recovered and are looking at him with a look of both respect and a little bit of fear. And this is where Grimlock simply, walks over to them and pets them. And he says, "Me very sorry that me hurt you. Me would never do that on normal circumstances. But you all strong, and me hope to fight you again under better conditions." And so, this is where Grimlock decides that, yeah, he's good to go. So, he pretty much walks through the door, and this is where he kind of walks through to a beach area. Or a little coastline area. And he's looking around, is like, nice place. And so he's looking around, taking in the scenery, and he walks forward a little bit, as again, he does have to go the path, but this is where he yelps out in pain. Oh! And this is where he feels something biting him, and looks down to see a Totodile biting his leg. And then Grimlock kind of looks at him like, so you think me, Grimlock, tastes good? And this is where the Totodile does let go, and then just starts dancing in front of him, actually enjoying the moment. So Grimlock actually turns into his T-Rex form and actually dances along with Totodile. And so this forms their bond, and Totodile begins to follow him. And this is where they actually head up to the arena, where they meet Regirock and Registeel. And so Grimlock asks Totodile, will he fight with him? And Totodile happily agrees and looks mean at the other Reggies. So the fight begins, with Arceus obviously giving the call. Regirock starts off with a Stone Edge, while Registeel goes on for a Flash Cannon. Both moves moving at incredible speed. However, Grimlock is already in his T-Rex form. So he matches the Flash Cannon with his Fire Breath and is actually able to, I guess you could say, somewhat push it back, because you can say like the type advantage, if you will, in some way. or, you know, at least the elemental advantage. And then this is where Totodile, while not as strong as the other, he's still able to cause more damage to Regigigas Regirock due to his typing. So when the clash is over and it causes a massive explosion, Grimlock grabs Totodile and says, "Okay, little guy, bite that one." And so this is the funny part. So he throws Totodile like a fastball special, and Totodile bites the head of Regirock. Keep in mind again, this it is what it is at this point. He just threw Totodile and told him, "Bite him." And so Reggie still goes for a Metal Claw. However, Grimlock is now much more, I guess you could say, determined and much more willing to harm them at this point. So he pretty much hits Regigigas with a 3-piece combo, sending it back. Regirock has now had enough of Totodile pretty much just frantically biting his head and causing cracks now. So he uses Lock On and then utilizes a Zap Cannon. The Zap Cannon loops around and is about to strike Totodile. However, Totodile, being a clever little misfit, actually utilizes his water gun to launch himself off of Regirock and send him flying into the air, causing damage on the same spot that his crack is now formed. However, it's Lock On, meaning that this attack was never going to miss regardless. So it follows Totodile, and Totodile begins panicking until Regigigas is pretty much flung right into the blast, causing it massive amounts of damage. And we would hear like all the bleeping and obviously all the pain that Regigigas is just going through. Unfortunate, but hey, it is what it is. And so this is where we would also see Totodile actually pretty happy, and he lands on Grimlock's shoulder, with Grimlock saying, "You're doing good, little buddy. Ready to end this? Toda!" And, you know, Totodile kind of gives his little nod and stuff like that. And so Grimlock's like, "All right, I think it's time for we wrap this up." And so this is where it kind of ends here. So Reggie still uses his Lock On, and well, I think we know what's going to happen. He sends a flash cannon flying right into the air, kind of confusing Grimlock for a moment, but then this is where it curves down and comes back at him. And this is where Regigigas does the same. And so when they do it at the same time, it combines the flash cannon, and now it's surrounded by Stone Edge. And so Grimlock, understanding that this could pretty much harm Totodile, actually, you know, bear hugs Totodile and kind of uses his body as a shield as the attacks simply rain down on him. This is where they both fire hyper beams, and considering they're legendaries, they have like impeccable stamina, so they start pulverizing Grimlock with hyper beam after hyper beam after hyper beam. And Totodile is looking worried as Grimlock is taking a whole lot of damage. However, Grimlock, being the iron wall that he is, does not budge no matter what. Every blow, it kind of makes him buck a little bit, but because they do hurt. I mean, these are like rapid hyper beams, plus he took a flash cannon and Stone Edge combo that was in an unpredictable position. So this is where he tells Totodile, "It's okay, I'll be alright." And Totodile gets angry seeing his new friend hurt, and so it jumps out of Grimlock's grip and actually aims at Regirock, focusing solely on him, and begins pelting that same crack on Regirock's head, and just starts unleashing water gun after water gun after water gun. Regirock tries to close the distance. Totodile got something to that for it as well, and it goes in for an Aqua Tail. However, once that staggers Regirock back because of the crack, this is where it goes for a Hydro Cannon at point blank range, taking out Regirock. But he's left tired and exhausted. So Reggie still tries to take the opportunity and tries to finish him off. But Grimlock's like, "No you don't," and grabs Reggie still, spins him around, slams him right into the ground to where he makes a crater, and then straight up punches him into the ground further, kind of sending him skidding and burying him in the ground at the same time. Then, without any hesitation, this man goes for a flamethrower, right? However, something's different. Because of Grimlock's more determined state, he actually utilizes a much more intense flamethrower than even he expected, causing this to not only knock out Registeel, but just straight up engulf it in flame. So, yeah, Registeel is kind of left sizzling, unfortunately. So, that means he and Totodile actually win. And Totodile celebrates by showcasing a new move, that being Hydro Pump, which replaces his water gun. And well, that also kind of deals with if Regirock is still around as well. He kind of just aims at Regirock to be petty. But this means that Arceus is not only pleased, but actually loves that Grimlock found his companion much sooner. And so, this is where Arceus states that not only will he gain new abilities, but he will be allowed to keep his partner should he so choose. And Grimlock simply states, "Do you want to come with me? Be my little partner?" And Totodile happily dances as, it agrees that it wants to be Grimlock's friend. It wants to be his partner. So they head off to the final arena. And this is where they see none other than Regigigas. And man, Grimlock's like, huh, quite big. We're going to punch it. And this is where Regigigas simply stands there waiting for them. And this is where Arceus simply gives him the challenge. 2 one-on-one matches. Whoever loses first will have to would have to tag the next person in. And so Totodile wants to go first, and Grimlock, understanding that Totodile will obey his command, tells him, okay, let's do it. So Totodile goes in first against Regigigas. And well, the match has already began. Regigigas starts off with a double-handed Hyper Beam, combining both. However, Grimlock tells Totodile to unleash a Hydro Pump, which surprisingly enough does manage to match it a little bit, but it gets overpowered. So Totodile has no choice to dodge. But this is where Regigigas gets petty and actually utilizes both hands to do individual Hyper Beams. So Grimlock actually has Totodile use Hydro Pump to actually boost Totodile and get underneath Regigigas. And unfortunately, it's underneath the crotch of Regigigas because this does work. It avoids the Hyper Beam and gets under there. So Grimlock tells him, bite. And if Regigigas was planning on having kids, he ain't got him no more. And then, to add insult to injury, Totodile hits that dude with a Hydro Pump to the balls. Yeah, poor Regigigas. Bro is getting pulverized down there. But this is where Grimlock notices something. Regigigas, while staggering back from that, double nut combo, he begins to power up. And Grimlock catches this very quickly and says, be ready and follow up with an Aqua Tail quick. And this is where Totodile goes in for, obviously, an Aqua Tail. And this actually managed to do a decent amount of damage to Regigigas. However, Regigigas begins moving. And he's faster than what he was before. He's stronger than what he was before. And so, this catches Totodile off guard as he not only gets whacked by Regigigas, but this is where a follow-up smackdown comes his way. So, Grimlock sees he has no other choice but to deploy a Hydro Cannon, to which this manages to counter the Hyper Beam, the smackdown, causing a massive explosion. However, Regigigas follows up with Hyper Beam spam. And unfortunately, this doesn't go too well, as every Hydro Pump that comes out can just barely match the Hyper Beam. So Grimlock is now seeing that his partner is losing. He's on the losing end. And he doesn't mind, jumping in right now, but he wants to give Totodile his chance. He wants to give Totodile the ability to be able to get through this. And this is where Totodile actually manages to survive a Hyper Beam. And, well, it begins to glow and evolve. And Grimlock is looking like, huh? What this? And this is where he is greeted by his friend being able to evolve into a Croconaw. However, Croconaw collapses due to the strain of the battle. However, Grimlock catches him and tells him that he did well. Me and Grimlock take over fight and win. So, Grimlock walks up to Regigigas. Keep in mind, he ain't got no sword. He ain't got no gun, no nothing. It's just pure hands from this point. So Grimlock puts Croconaw off to the side, and now it's just him and Regigigas. They both walk around, circling each other. And then when they both stop and they're both facing each other at very, very close range, Grimlock takes the first blow, landing a super strong uppercut on Regigigas. However, Regigigas comes down with a hammer blow, burying Grimlock into the arena. However, obviously, we know Grimlock is not taking that lying down, as he throws the hands of Regigigas off and then proceeds to lay into him with a three-piece combo with a biscuit and a soda on the side as well. These two are going at it back and forth. However, after the three-piece combo with no biscuit, and this is where Grimlock turns into his T-Rex form and utilizing his greater strength and momentum, rams Regigigas, using it to actually deploy or pretty much land a sickening crunch on his body and then slamming him into a wall for a very painful impact, like something that no one should be able to hear. It's just like a whole like that is what you would hear when he goes into the wall. And Grimlock is panting, saying it's over. However, Regigigas seems to not only get another boost from its slow start, but gets angry as it unleashes a double hyper beam. But Grimlock goes in for his more evolved flamethrower, utilizing it to just barely, and I mean barely, counter it. But it causes an explosion, which is able to mask him. So Grimlock uses this opportunity to actually leap in and punch Regigigas right back into the wall yet again. However, Regigigas gets another slow start boost, and now he's faster. He's stronger, and he begins wailing on Grimlock fiercely over and over and over again, even igniting his punches with focus energy, basically using focus punch at this point. And this is where Croconaw begins trying to cheer him, basically, like Croconaw, 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 but he's basically chanting for his friend to get up, to keep fighting. He can't lose here. What about his friends? What about their new friends? And so Grimlock seemingly gets some type of rage boost. Like, he goes into a fit of rage and simply slams into Regigigas with this huge amount of flame energy and just charges him further into the wall, overwhelming him and, well, knocking Regigigas out. And Croconaw runs over to him, hugging his companion, as Grimlock not only calms down, but sits down in that arena as well. And this is where the light comes in. Arceus telling him, "Congratulations, Grimlock, you have won, proving that you are now the new symbol of strength. And I grant you the ability of Dragon. All of its powers and abilities are now at your disposal, and you must use them wisely." And that's where we're going to leave it off here, you guys.